Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Now I realized I had this recipe recorded for a while and I never really got around to posting it. So finally here we are, my recipe for Bhaji, and in particular for this recipe I'm using Chowrai Bhaji or Amaranth, which you can see growing plentiful in my garden. You want to really make sure that you wash this Bhaji well, leaf by leaf, and you want to clean out all the stems so just the small soft stems remain. Now I have it cut up really fine here. It's just easier if you cut it very small and fine. And like I said, you can leave some of the softer stems. Now along with that, I have some garlic. I typically use a lot of garlic in this recipe, some hot pepper and some onion as well, some roasted jeera, some salt, and you typically can use ghee, but I'm using butter just for this demonstration. So into my hot oil, I'm going in with my onion just because it takes longer to cook. And I'm going to let that just get a little translucent. So basically when you cook this bhaji, you do not really want the onions to brown entirely per se. You just want it to kind of get a little bit dehydrated to get all the excessive moisture out in the oil because the cooking process will help allow the bhaji and the onion and garlic all melt together. The whole point, I think, in a good bhaji is to have a very homogeneous mixture. So now that the onions have wilted, I've gone in with my garlic and my hot pepper. Now, pepper is obviously optional. You can go in with what you like and what you prefer according to your tastes. Here I used, I believe it was a Scotch bonnet pepper because we prefer the flavor and minimal heat per se from the pepper. And I just had my uncle here helping me out. I was teaching him throughout the process as well. So you'll see me and him kind of switch between. Now when the garlic begins to brown a little bit, and you really do want the garlic to slightly brown, you can go in with your bhaji and the smaller, softer stems. Now the way I like to go in and cook my bhaji, especially if I'm using fresh leaves like this, is a little bit at a time. Allow the first set to wilt before I go in with more. You're going to repeat this process because if you were to add in all that bhaji all at once, the whole cooking process will kind of take a lot longer because the bottom layer will cook, melt, and wilt properly, and the top layer will take a lot longer to get to the stage as a bottom layer. So the whole process will just take longer than if you were to wilt them all, kind of take your time and wilt them at this stage. By wilting the bhaji or the spinach or whatever leaves you're using, you ensure that the cooking process in itself allows for a more homogeneous, uniform final product per se. So as you can see, we're kind of finishing up here, and you can see how well the bhaji leaves have wilted, and they have gotten to the point where the leaves are soft and the stems are still a little solid. So I'm just going in with a little bit of salt now. Careful when you add in your salt because again, it's a spinach, so they tend to shrink down when it's cooked. So you can add in more salt later on, but you cannot take out back that salt if you add too much in the beginning. I'm also adding in my roasted ground jeera now. This is something some people prefer and some people do not prefer. It's all personal taste. Now I'm just going to cover periodically, lift the lid and stir again. Covering the bhaji will help it steam and cook properly. So as you can see here, it's pretty well cooked entirely. I'm just checking to see if the stems are soft. And if you look carefully, you can see there's a little bit of moisture, a little bit of water in the bottom of the pot. Part of the cooking process is to kind of dry out some of that water, just so that you don't have your bhaji floating in a puddle when it's done cooking. And at this stage, once the stems have softened up, you can go in with the back of your spoon and begin mashing everything together. In Fiji, we call this ghotal bhaji or kind of melted bhaji, where you use a ghotni, a dal ghotni per se, or a back of a spoon to kind of melt it together. Now at this point, you can go in with your butter or your golden ray. I know some people use in Trinidad, or what I like to use is a little bit of ghee. But because I'm not using ghee in this video, I added in a very obscene amount of butter, as you can see. But otherwise, you'll just add a little bit for a little bit of flavor, and this really brings up your bhaji. So there you have it. It was a pretty straightforward and quick recipe. I hope you please try out this bhaji recipe, this Chowrai bhaji recipe, and let me know in the comments how it comes out below, and let me know how you like to eat your bhaji. It's a simple vegetarian food, but it goes great with a lot of things. Thank you all once again for watching.